Yeah, we got about 21 people here. We can get started here. Thanks for everyone to joining in. Thanks for our Fall 2020 Cycle virtual user group. I hope everyone is staying healthy and enjoying working from home.
Hey,
Today,
hey, Suresh, did you want to record the session?
yes, I am recording already.
Oh, okay. I see it up there. Mine told to ask the host to record. So,
Yep,
oh,
yep.
great.
It's
Thank you.
already going. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for the
Thank you.
reminder. Yeah. Um, So today we got some exciting lineup from two of our Cycle MVPs, Himadri and Rodrigo, and we're going to start with Himadri, who's going to be talking about the structured login in Sitecore 9 or 10, and followed by Rodrigo talking about Sitecore IoT Hub, and then exciting model that he has put together that we will be releasing as part of this Sitecore user group too. With that, let me transfer over to Himadri. Himadri, you can start sharing your screen. Let me stop share.
All right. So let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'm going to talk about structured logging in Sitecore. Just a little correction. It's not really Sitecore version dependent. So it can be used for older version of Sitecore. I think from the Sitecore perspective, logging has not changed much, other than some new modules which are using structured logging already. So yeah, I'm going to talk about a little bit about structured logging concepts, and then jump into some demo, and also there is a module that I created. I will do some demo for that and see how we can enable Sitecore to use structured logging. So I guess this is going to be I'm promising that not going to be a depressing session, but pain is the biggest motivator. I know some of my colleagues and friends in this session, they would sit and spend 3-4 hours to write some PowerShell script to avoid the chronic pain of doing same thing again and again. So as a developer, we actually delve into finding ways to make things smarter, so that we don't feel the pain every day. And it's sometimes it's actually a biggest motivation for coming up with something. So so let's look at a scenario, like how we really troubleshoot a scale Sitecore environment. This is not actually, I would not say like this is typically what happens in the Sitecore past. That's actually situation is a little better there. Obviously this scenario I'm talking about here is actually kind of over the top, and I am making up things, but we have been there, and we have gone through pain like this. And so say, especially for the scaled environment, say you have a ticket, it comes, and the ticket came, and you come to know that this is this intermittent problem that is happening in production. You cannot recreate the issue in the local QA or UAT or any other environment that you have, only happening in production. You want to check the Sitecore log and you do not have access to the production server. So you contact the client and say like, I need to see all logs from CDs and CM for last 7 days. And then you wait for 2 days to get those logs. You get 50 logs after 2 days, open up in the Notepad++, and then look through the log and go through the pain. And after 3 days, you find like, there was an item that was not published on the CD2 server. So obviously we don't do this because client cannot wait so long. Either they will leave or you will leave your job and look for something else. But what we do is actually we completely ignore the log sometime, and we use our experience to find out like, what is going on. In my experience, that a lot of time I just don't bother to look at the log and try to see if there is a data missing or something. So, but log is something we expect to look at and find out information and quickly troubleshoot. But the current situation with logging is not that rosy and that good. So we avoid and we take a different approach. Um, so that's kind of a pain that we go through, and that's kind of a motivation that drive us to actually look for some a better solution for logging, and we'll talk about that. So a little bit about history of logging in developed computer development, and everyone knows that there is like printf statement in every language, and basically the logging and debugging and troubleshooting started with initially with the printf statement, and basically that was the only means of like debugging issues. But printf logs in the console, and it's difficult to do things. At some point, people thought that like we need to persist this data and so that we can look at later, especially if the application is running in a different machine and you want to know what is going on in that machine. You need to persist the data and look into that. Um, every operating system provides logging capabilities. Windows has even logs, Unix has syslogs. So there is problem. We look at those logging tools and try to find out things. But there was not much thought like on we realized that we have to log persist data so that we can look at later, but eh, much thought was not spent on like how to do that. um, Basically we started dumping messages in files, event logs and database and whatnot. uh, there was really no clear thought process and no structure of logging. So some people realized that, and actually initial logging was and still is like text-based, and text-based logging is okay, but it's not very good for machine to read text-based logging. It is not machine readable. So that's where structured logging comes. Structured logging is the idea there is that log can be parsed easily. Machine can read logs and provide information in a nicer way. So the whole idea of structured logging based on that idea, and like it's to help the developer to or the programmer to actually find out things quickly, and much thought was added to that, and a different kind of approach is taken for logging. So what is like text-based logging? We use that every day, and one of the most popular library for text-based logging is actually Log4net for the .NET environment, which is a port from the Log4j Apache library. And if you look at the Apache statement about Log4net library, it says that Log4net library is a tool to help programmer output log statement to a variety of output targets. Log4net is a port for of the excellent Apache Apache Log4j framework to Microsoft.NET runtime. In this statement, you will not see that actually it tells how to output the log. It just says here is the library. You can use it to actually output some statement to your file or your database. And as you know, Log4net has different kind of appenders. So in that sense, Log4net is really flexible. You can create your own appender, and basically you can add or output log in different storage. So but it doesn't really say well, you should output this log in that way, so that it is helpful. It's just a text-based login. It's bunch of text actually you dump. Can you actually make it structured? Yes, you can, but it takes a lot of effort to do that. So there is really no separation of key and value in the text-based logging. So if you see a text-based logging, you will see something like what I added below. It's just time info, time log level, and then a message. Whereas if you look at the structured logging, um, the same message will be actually logged in key value pair. And uh, as soon as we do that, it is actually easy for the machine to read key value pair than extracting data from just a big string. So in this case, if I want to see the task name is expired message cleanup, and how many messages with elapsed time, more than 1 minute, we can do those kind of query to the data and come up with different kinds of um, different way to narrow down messages. So and that's why it's actually a different mindset of logging. It's not when you are working on structured logging, you have to think how you want to log it, what variable or key value pair you want to create. So that's something need to be remembered. Structured logging is based on message template. So message template is first of all capturing and rendering structured log events in a format that both human friendly and machine readable. So the problem with structured logging is that it is key value pair, but key value pair is not really human friendly. For us to read a log is actually easier if we read a message. So for example, the example I put there is actually when I'm logging, if I log starting period task name with elapsed time elapsed, and then use the variable name to put the task name and elapsed time. This way, the message will be readable, as well as since structured log add those task name and elapsed in the key value pair, it is also will be machine readable. So that's that's the way structured logging also address uh, messages readable for the machine and human. Um, event is something which something happens and for which we actually um, log a message. Um, and that's same for text logging and structure logging. Uh, Event types is there in the text logging, like, in Log4net, you have different kinds of labels. So you can filter events by, like, different levels. You want to see only info messages, or you want to see only error messages, you can do that. But problem with the text based logging is that it cannot go beyond that. You can, with much effort, you can create different kinds of event types, but it takes a lot of coding and discipline to do that. But in structure logging, because we use message template, it actually inherently create event type based on message type, a message template. So you can select a message template and say, like, I want to see only this event type that matches with this message template. So it's easy to create the event types. So we'll see some example of that later in the demo. Let's look at a quick demo of how typically we actually troubleshoot infrastructure logging. So what I'm sharing here is actually called a sync. I'm going to talk about sync later, but it is one type of sync. You can think sync as like a appender in text-based logging or in log4net, like different kinds of appender, file and database or whatnot. Sync is one of the appender in the, or sync in the structured logging that implemented using Serilog. So first of all, you do not have to be in the server to access your log. Like, you don't need to get the log file and everything. So you can reach to log from outside, and it is actually not like, tightly coupled with your server or anything. You can set up the server separately. And when you are here, you can actually slice and dice the messages and data, and based on different parameter that you set. For example, I want to look at, like, environment dev. All, of course, like, this is in local. I don't have any log from the local. But if I want to see dev environment, I can click on the dev and it will show only the dev log. So it's local, all my logs are here. Then you can, as you get the idea, like, you can set up different parameters, and you can, like, narrow down your log based on those parameters, first of all. So first of all, if you want to see all the errors, you can go and say, show me all the errors, click on the error, you toggle it, it shows everything. So you want to see the errors, and then you want to see those errors in your Sitecore application. You select the application name Sitecore, it shows Sitecore related error. You want to see error for a different application, you select that application and it will show the error for that. That's actually high level, like, you can narrow down things that way. And once you do that, you can actually look at the message, and in the message itself, you can actually filter out things based on what, how the message is enriched. Um, so you can say, like, I want to see only the messages from W3 WP process name, or I want to see messages from this machine. Even, like, in the dev environment, maybe you have two machines. In production, you have two machines. So, but you are suspecting that this is something happening in the one of these machines. So you can select there and you can say, like, I want to see only this machine. So it will actually, you can run query, or you can select things from here to generate the query and basically narrow down the log nicely and come up with a like, shorter or the smaller chunk of data that you need to look at. You can do that using time also. So you get the idea. So it's nice to actually nice and more accessible doing that in the structured logging, and it's possible because the OS structured logging logs things. So that was the demo. Now, Serilog is one of the most popular implementation of structured logging, and it's actually open source library, structured logging library for .NET application. So it consists of Serilog, core Serilog library, and then these other libraries are actually um, uh, separately like live outside of Serilog because you want to create a like different um, different kind of libraries like sync. For example, sync is, as I said, like it's like appender in log4net. So sync can be for seek, for file, for database, for Elasticsearch. There are many sync available for Serilog implementation, and you create your own sync. So that's why it is actually separated from the core library. You can create enrichers. Enricher is what provides the additional information or decorate the log. For example, there are enricher like environment, which provides environment related information like machine name. There is enricher for thread. There is enricher for process. So you get the idea, like you can create different kind of enricher for your logging. You can extend the logging to add more additional information in your log. Settings, you can actually configure structured log in Serilog using different kinds of settings. It can be in the app settings files, it can be in your database, or you can use Microsoft's configuration. So you can come up with your own settings package to include with Serilog. So that gives the extensibility of the library. Okay, I don't know why this is there. Okay, so now I'm going to actually uh, demo the module that I created. But first, we'll look at some code, and I will geek out a bit and understand the code, and basically do a demo based on the code. So very simple. So the idea is actually creating a appender in, so as we know that Sitecore actually uses Log4net. In fact, Sitecore, eh, it doesn't use Log4net as such, like, we do use Log4net library. What Sitecore did is actually, if you go to Sitecore application, you will not see there is any Log4net library. What you will see is that Sitecore diagnostic library, and it is actually implementation of Log4net. Log4net is actually interface based library, so Sitecore implemented it based on that, and that way, Sitecore can make it work for its purpose, and basically it can be extended for user module and different kinds of Sitecore logs. But the core of it is actually same Log4net concept. So what I did is actually I created a appender which is like log4net appender, and created the same way Sitecore would create that. So it's called Serilog appender. Okay, and this appender takes like some parameter from the configuration file. Um, so if I look at the configuration file, um, this is my configuration file, and this is like doing the log patching, sorry, config patch, Sitecore config patching. So basically it's adding the Serilog appender um, to Sitecore config, and it's setting some values, and minimum level is debug. So all the debug log will come through this, and then some additional value that I need for my appender. So one of them is like, I need a API key to like, send messages to SIG. And then I need to know what is the SIG host URL. So those kind of like, parameter I need to pass. And at the end, I am replacing the file appender with Serilog appender. Not necessarily that I have to replace the file log file appender. I could just actually add my appender on the top of whatever is there, but I choose to like, replace it. So once I do that, and this file, actually this config provides me all this parameter, and I can grab that from my property in the appender, which is like in minimum level or API key or SIG host. And then only method that I had to implement is send buffer, which takes the logging event, and then like, you capture that logging event and you use Serilog to actually log that in a structured way. So what I do here is actually, once I have that, then I can create my logger from the log configuration. And basically, this is where I am saying that add all this enricher, like, enrich with machine name, enrich with the environment username. So as I enrich those, they will be actually added to my log along with the log message. So there are different enrichment library. So I have used some of them. If we go to the NuGet package manager, and if we look at the installed, so these are the enricher. I can use, like, I use this enricher. So I use, like, environment, I use process in my code. In addition to that, I can always, like, add enrichment or property in my log using with property. So I can actually add like thread ID and get the thread ID from like, log4net sysinfo. So that is also possible. And once I get that, I can actually see what level for the log that log4net is trying to log, and then I use this logger, say log logger, to do that. So let's see. I will. Okay. So once I have that code and I compile, and then I can just publish that code. So this is my little website, which points to my Sitecore website. So I publish that, and then I can refresh this page. And while it is refreshing, I can go here and okay, so now you can see that log started coming into SIG. So this is some error that's happening. I didn't care like, what it is adding. It's actually restarting the Sitecore process, like W3, WP process. So all this message, now I can actually, if I want to see only warning, I can see and see the warning. And if I go inside the warning, I can actually look at all this information. I can see what machine names are there, what thread it is, what process is there, and as well as I can actually see the like, message which I can, which is human readable. So, and also I can take this and I can say like, I want to see only this kind of message. So if I say like, show me the message of this template, message template. So it will show me only those messages that are logged. This is not like, a good example because what we are getting in log is like, it's just adding messages like, when it's starting the process. But the real use of it is actually, if you know where the issues is happening, you can select a message and you can actually look into only those messages that are that you are interested in. That way it actually creates the type. So now I can see like, all the information messages are coming up. And if I want to say like, I want to see only this from this environment. Okay, so obviously I have only one environment, so I would be able to see that. So besides this, like, this is a lot of data that is pushing to the put to the log file. What SIG provides, and this is like, this is nothing to do with the structured logging, but since structured logging is provides the data in such a nice manner, it is possible to actually generate different kind of chart out of it. If you add information in a certain way that you want to see the data, you can actually create different kinds of charts and things in the using the log data itself. For example, like, if you are logging using the Serilog and you have access to this, and you can go to the dashboard and you can at least see, if you see the all events, you will get some idea like, how busy the application is. And okay, are there any errors happening in the application? What kind of messages are getting logged? But there are a lot of other things that you can do. And not only that, you can generate different kinds of query. You can also create alerts. Okay, so when you create, like, for example, you say within 10 seconds, if I get like, 3 errors, I want to get an alert. An alert will actually send notification to something that you will set up in your SIG. For example, in the settings, if you go, like, there are different kinds of apps that you can install. So you can install like Teams, you can install email, which you can use for notification. So that way you can, like, alert the team that something is going on. It is also secured. So as I was showing, like, API key that you have to pass to, like, send the message. So I will just quickly show you for my Sitecore local. Here is one other place that you can actually add your parameters when the message is coming from this API token. You want to add the application name and environment. Okay, so any message coming from this environment or this application will add that, and that's why I can see application name Sitecore here, and I can see environment local here. So that is totally possible and easy way to do that. Okay, so that's the demo of that module, which like, converts the Sitecore legacy logging, or it doesn't change anything, but you can still take advantage of structured logging or Serilog using that. So here are some links. I have a blog article out there. I'm planning to write another one. First one talks about structure logging and Sitecore, the concept mainly. I uploaded the code in GitHub. It's accessible to anyone. I would highly recommend to follow, if you want to learn more about Serilog and structured logging, follow this guy, Nicholas Blumhardt. Follow his blog. He's an awesome guy who actually single-handedly changed the logging scenario in .NET applications. And basically, you can look at Serilog's GitHub page, and you will get all the libraries and everything from there. Okay, that's all. I don't think we have too much time for questions. You can actually contact me via Twitter or LinkedIn, and I would be happy to answer your questions or anything that you want to talk about. Thanks for Suresh, can we take any questions?
Yeah, we are running out of time right now, so there are
Okay.
a couple questions, and I think someone is asking for sharing the links. Once again, can you go back to the link slide?
Yeah. So I'll leave it here, and yeah, is there any other question, Suresh?
So we have one more question. How often we posting logs to logging server? Is there a way to buffer those log entries?
Yeah, so first of all, like, it comes to the library is in a buffer, but when we push it to SIG, it's basically, it takes care of that. It actually keeps things in the queue and logs them. But in any case, like, log4net also do not, like, write things like, immediately. It actually, it's completely different from, and the log4net logging is runs and is in a different thread itself, and, like, it runs outside of the application to have no effect on the performance. So it does use buffer.
Perfect. If don't want to have any questions, I give reach out to Himadri through his Twitter feed, and we will make sure that the questions are getting answered. With that being said, let's go and switch over to Rodrigo for his next presentation.
All right. Thank you, everyone.